it's time.
This is the CSL This Week. Welcome, everybody. I'm Alex Bastiabansky, bringing you all the action from the Canadian Soccer League. On the show this week, all the game highlights, of course, plus a feature on last season's league MVP, Guillaume Serrault. Also, a look at the North York Astros, who have been turning heads as of late. But first, let's kick things off with the game highlights. And as mentioned last week, one of the big surprises of the season so far is the record of last year's playoff champions, SC Waterloo. Now, they haven't played badly, but heading into their game last Saturday, the champs had yet to register a win through 5 games. Could they finally notch their first W of the season? It wasn't an easy task as they faced a high-powered Serbian White Eagles squad. The highlights now brought to you by Leica Sports, official sponsor of the Canadian Soccer League.
So it's Serbia hoping to keep defending playoff champs Waterloo winless on the season, and it looks promising for the Serbs early on. Milo Simpanovic with the gorgeous feed to Saja Reed, who just taps it past Imad Hakura and guides it home. 1-0 White Eagles after 17 minutes of play. On to the second half we go, and Drazen Vukovic tests Stefan Avramovic, but what a save by the Serbian keeper there to keep his squad in the lead. Nothing he can do about this one, though. 52nd minute, some light contact in the box. Vukovic goes down hard. The Serbs argue it to no avail. Now, a little Drazen Vukovic 101 for you here. He loves this move. This is the penalty shot right here that eliminated Croatia in the semifinals last year. He loves to do it. This time, Drazen does it again, totally faking out Avramovic, and it's all knotted up at 1 through 52 minutes of play. 9 minutes later, Waterloo's Adis Hasesic absolutely tattoos it past the helpless Serb goalie, and that's just sexy. 2-1 Waterloo, and that turns out to be your game winner. So Waterloo ends a month of frustration, and the defending champs finally pick up their first win of the season as they double up the White Eagles by a 2-1 count. Okay, on we go to York Region. First place York Region actually hosting last place London City. David versus Goliath. City just 1 win on the season so far, while the Shooters are the CSL's only remaining unbeaten team. But London draw first blood. Marin Gergic, so fast, outruns 2 York defenders, and Gergic just a little bit excited about it. 1-0 City after 32 minutes. On to the second half we go. It was all Shooters. First, though, Vladimir Markotic with the massive stop on Mario Aristrano to preserve the lead. Now, York tied it in the 69th minute on a goal by Richard West. Then in the 79th, it's West again to make it 2-1 York Region. Those are West's first 2 markers of the season so far, actually. 8 minutes later, newly acquired Yora Enzam collects the pass and slams it past Markotic. 3-1 Shooters. York Region now unbeaten in 5 games. They pulled away in the second half to down City by a 3-1 count. London need to pick it up. Just 1 win on the season so far. Other game scores: North York, huge win, their first of the year over Brampton City United. And Burlington SC, a bit of a surprise, doubling up Kingston by a 2-1 count. And just a quick look at the league standings. York Region on top, as mentioned, with 13 points. London City, as you can see on the bottom. Just remember, go to CanadianSoccerLeague.ca for all the up-to-date news, stats, and standings. We've got to take a quick break, but stick around. The CSL This Week. We'll be back in just a moment.
Welcome back. Well, France has exported many great things to Canada over the years. For Kingston FC, their great French import came not in the form of a Bordeaux or Beaujolais, but rather in a footballer, one Guillaume Serrault to be specific. Now entering his second year with the club, the reigning league MVP has been everything the team could have hoped for and more. And he's our focus this week in the player profile brought to you by Olympic Trophies, official sponsor of the Canadian Soccer League.
understatement to say that in the short time he's been in Kingston, Guillaume Sereau has been a hit. The big Frenchman arrived in the Limestone City last season, fresh off leading Trois-Rivières to a bronze medal in the 2013 CIS National Championship.
So yeah, I went to Trois-Rivières for 2 years, play for university, and we went to the national championship. We won the bronze medal, and I came back to France. But I was not really happy, and I have a proposition from Kingston FC to come here for the season. So I was, yeah, let's go, let's try and see what the CSL is, what the level is, and I'm really happy now with that. I was really surprised about the level, and that's really good.
Guillaume's success with Kingston was instant and frankly stunning. Sereau scored 29 goals in 22 games, outscoring the second highest in the league by an astounding 9 goals. To put his totals in context, Sereau's 29 were the highest the league has seen since 1998 when Gus Kuzmanis notched 36. In the process, he led Kingston to the regular season championship and a berth in the playoff final. Not surprisingly, Sereau was named Rookie of the Year and CSL Most Valuable Player.
And the winner is Guillaume Sereau.
I really like the fact I was MVP, because when I see a couple of players in the league, when you win MVP and they're not winning the MVP, you can be really proud, because in this league we have amazing players.
None of what he's accomplished surprised his coaches or his teammates.
He's the best striker I think I can safely say that I've ever played alongside. He brings so much more than just goals. Obviously, those are the things that people notice. You're not going to score 30 goals in the CSL and not, be known for his goal scoring ability. What he does off the ball, what he does in build-up play for the team is massive. It's really important. For myself as a centre back, one of my outlets is always key.
Guillaume plays a great target role for us. He presents for the ball. He's a link player. The way we play the game, he's obviously a great finisher, and his personality accepts the challenge of shooting. Some people shirk the challenge of a shot. Guillaume is always looking for that opportunity to get a shot on goal. So this is an important characteristic for a forward. But his general technique and his general ability to position and come alive at the right time is his #1 characteristic. This includes the build-up.
I score a lot of goals since I started my career when I was 6, and that's always the coach asked me, I say, even if we don't see you during the game, at the end of the game it's 1-0 and you score, that's what we want. So if I don't score, I'm not really happy. That's my job, that's why they put me on the field. So,
as they say in football where I'm from, finishing's an attitude. So he has this attitude. He's not looking to shirk responsibility or hand it off to somebody else.
People make a huge deal about, Fergie time when it came to Manchester United playing back in the early and mid-2000s, where, you'd be down 1-0 at Old Trafford with, 5 minutes left to go in the game, but nobody ever thought they were actually going to lose because of, what United always had and that confidence that they were always going to get one. With what we have in Guillaume, that's exactly what it is. We always are confident that no matter what happens, he can flick a switch in an instant. He could be having the worst game of any player that's ever played. And 90 minutes in, we're down a goal or we're level, and he can just turn it on. And that's something that's innate in a player that you don't find, I don't think, in a lot of strikers. And his goal scoring is, it's something I've never, seen as a player.
While he'll flash a smile from time to time, Sereau is the consummate professional on the pitch. He's got the talent, but he doesn't coast on it. He constantly demands more of himself and his fellow teammates.
Yeah, he's a demanding character. He like I mentioned, he expects a lot from from his teammates, and that's something that we want. We don't want players who are happy to go through the motions and happy for their players to go through the motions. He's a passionate character. He really does want the best for the team and for himself. And like I said, he's a confidence player. He's a guy that some may say a little bit not cocky, but he certainly has a bit of a swagger about him, where he knows that he's gonna, score goals and be the best player in the park on every given day, and that's something that's huge for both a team and for an individual to sort of have.
Guillaume is a player like everybody in our group. We ask for personality. We don't want robots, so everybody's allowed to be an individual. He's a strong character. and people respond to that.
So what's next for Suro? Import restrictions at the higher levels made advancement difficult this past offseason. It seems like only a matter of time, though, until teams at the NASL or even MLS level pick him up. As an example, Jonathan Osorio only finished 10th in CSL scoring in 2012, and yet the very next season, he was starring for Toronto FC. Suro is only 26 years old, and clearly he has the talent to take that next step.
Like when I came here, I wanted to go like after that to NSL or MLS, and like I think it's not a big difference between like our team and like couple of teams in MLS. Like when I see a game, I think like probably can play. Like we'll see what's happened if I do like another season like this. I have like good players around me who give me good balls. Like I score a lot, give a lot of like assists too. So for me, like great experience, play good football. That's all I ask now.
We've got to take a quick break, but stick around. The CSL this week. We'll be back in just a moment.
Welcome back. I'm joined now in the studio by the president of an esteemed club, one of the most famous clubs actually in Canada, Toronto, Croatia. Joe Pavičić joins me here in the studio. Joe, welcome.
Thank you very much, and thanks for having me.
Yeah, well, Toronto, Croatia, as I said, I mean, really a club that's one of the most famous clubs, one of the oldest soccer clubs, if not the oldest soccer club in Canada, a semi-professional club. Toronto, Croatia.
We can say that proudly. You know, Toronto, Croatia was established in 1956,
right?
And from National Soccer League to Professional Soccer League in North America. Now
all ends of the
League,
spectrum. Yeah.
Always continuously. We never stop.
Mm-hmm.
So that means makes us. Probably one of the most successful team in the Canada, Canada soccer.
Well, take us back to 1956, the formation of this club. Give us a little, I mean, I know it's tough, there's so much history, but a brief little history as to how it was formed in the first place.
It was, that was a time when an opportunity in this country would give us like so many different ethnic groups here, you know, what's happening. Everybody was established, you know, not just Croatians, it was Portuguese, Italians, Greeks.
1956, big year for Hungarians coming over as well, of course.
Oh, they were there, and everybody started that national soccer league, and obviously Toronto, Croatia came with because of big Croatian immigration after the Second World War, and people trying to be, at that time, to be recognized because of fashion for Croatian people to play soccer and to bring something to this multinational country and for culture of soccer and sports entire. So it was a very good idea. So some people started with, we can say with no money, but people you know,
donations and things like that. Just really quick, the footage that we're seeing is from a documentary that just premiered actually earlier this year on Toronto, Croatia. And if you want to find out more about the documentary and actually watch it in its entirety, you can go to torontocroatia.com. It's absolutely fascinating. Some great old footage there. But let's talk about for its most well-known period, Toronto, Croatia, known across Canada and North America, was as Toronto Metros Croatia. In the North American Soccer League, and you guys actually won it all, the Soccer Bowl, back in 1976.
Yeah, that was something what makes us very proud and making, not just for Croatian people, the community here, but entire Canadian soccer. We know that Vancouver won 2, you know, North American Championship at that time, but Toronto Metros Croatia was the first one in 1976. And we had in that time 8 international players who played at that time for us. One of our best players at that time, Marc Antonio, said Toronto Metros Croatia was probably the best team ever played in North America.
And you were taking on the big boys, the New York Cosmos, with your Pelés and your Beckenbauers
Pele
and
was
stuff
playing
like that.
at that time, and we beat them 3-0. I remember that game. I was on a game, 23,000 people on the Varsity Stadium, and we had probably 5,000 people couldn't come.
Yeah. I know my dad told me about that game and said they were climbing the walls outside trying to get in, actually. So that going way back,
that was something.
And some incredible players on the team, and one specifically that everyone knows about, of course, one of the all-time greats from around the world, Portuguese superstar Eusebio.
Eusebio, you know, he won 2 times gold boot, you know, in European soccer. He was probably after Pele most famous player, especially in Europe, and he came to play for us, you know, at that time with many other players like you know, international star, German international star Steinholz. We had Robert Hirushi, we had Ivan Lukacevic, we had one of the famous Ivan Grnja, you know, who came. He was big star at that time, you know, with Eusebio. And if we made a documentary, you know, which is about one hour documentary about Toronto, Croatia, and Toronto Metros, Croatia, and is really something to see of the history, what we put together, and how when Toronto, Croatia bought half of Metros, so-called Metros.
How it all came together, the Metros and the Croatia part of it.
That's and it was the Croatian people said, okay, we'll buy half of the Metros if we keep our jerseys.
People have to watch the documentary to find out about the entire story. But before we wrap things up, you know, the stadium's a little smaller now, and the players may not be quite as famous, but Toronto, Croatia still plays a very important part to the Croatian community in Toronto and across the GTA, and 3 championships also since 2008, I believe, right? 2 of the last 3 as well in the CSL.
2007, 2011, 2012, we were champions of Canadian Soccer League. We have, and we are still keeping, you know, very important role in Canadian soccer, and we would like to make this Canadian Soccer League much more stronger.
We're out of time. If people want to find out more, of course, about the club Toronto Croatian, you can go to torontocroatia.com. Joe, thanks so much for being on the show. The CSL This Week will be back in just a moment. Welcome back. You know, if you take a look at the league standings, you might think that North York has had a subpar season so far since they've only had 1 win in 6 games. But don't judge a book by its cover. The Astros have been close in virtually every game they've played, and the young squad have recently really started to come on strong. Case in point, a 5-0 drubbing of Brampton City last weekend. They're a talented, tight-knit squad, and they're our focus in this week's team report, brought to you by Days Inn, official hotel of the Canadian Soccer League.
Last year was a bounce-back season for the North York Astros. Truthfully, there was nowhere to go but up. In 2012, the squad finished dead last in the Canadian Soccer League, which is 2 wins in 22 games. But some fresh faces and a new attitude got North York back on the right track.
I feel like the second half of last season, we went on a great run. We had a coaching change. It was an overall good season compared to what you said, you know, of the year before.
Definitely came together and we started bonding as a team. We started playing better. We got some big wins.
North York improved so much, they nearly accomplished a first for the franchise since 2008, qualifying for the CSL postseason. In fact, after a slow start, the Astros were right in the thick of things for much of the year, and up until the last day of the season had a chance to qualify. Heartbreakingly, they lost out on the 8th and final spot to the Serbian White Eagles, leaving them to think about missed opportunities along the way.
It was really tough. It was really tough actually, because like there was one game that was critical. I think it was actually against, if I don't mistake, Niagara at home here, and we lost 1-0. If we just had tied that game, that would have been that extra point that we needed. And we look back, and it was just so close.
This season, the Astros are looking like they'll be dangerous opposition once again. They've got a dangerous 1-2 punch up front in the form of Joey Mello and Jose De Souza. Former TFC player Mello brings a wealth of skill and experience to North York.
Joey is a special player, as a person, as a talent, and in my coaching career, like he's one of the players what I would say could play on any high level. And Joe can bring any to any team good quality in offense and leadership and scoring goals. He can change the game in a split second. He's an amazing person, an amazing player.
What Joey brings a lot. He's just a very smart, very technical player. Like he's just very good offensively. So like it's just so easy to play with him, you know. So you play him the ball, like no matter what type of ball you play him, he's gonna bring it down. He's gonna look for another player. He makes players around him much better.
D'Souza is among the league leaders in goals this season, and the 22-year-old is just as good at setting them up as he is at scoring them.
Yeah, of course. You know, if he likes to feed off of other players and set them up, I'm trying to get set up as many of those as possible. Jose brings a lot of pace. He's got good feet. He's got good moves. He's a left-footed player, which is always great. You know, those are rare players, and he brings goals. He creates goals.
Jose is, again, similar to Joey. He's a creative player. With Joey, they're like twins. They know each other, where to move, where to play the ball, and really good to watch them how to play together. And he's a left-footed player and just a very special player as well.
Antoine Paul is a tower of power on the back end, and along with Jared van der Eyden, team up to shut down the opposition's top guns.
Antoine Paul, he's just a really athletic guy, right? Very fast, very good center back. He's a proven player in the league, and he's gonna show that this year again. He's a very good center back.
Jovan brings an experience. He's one of the, I think, old player on an Astros team, and he's working very hard. And we worked on some good coordination skill trainings. Actually, he turned into a good player, and he's proving he can play.
One thing is for certain, other teams aren't sleeping on the Astros anymore. So far this year, they've tied last year's playoff champion Waterloo and regular season champs Kingston, and they hammered a talented Brampton United squad 5-0. The young team is confident they can finally snap that playoff jinx and make some noise along the way this year.
We know each other already very well, so like our starting lineup is a very strong core, and we got very good players now coming off the bench and everything. So players that we know, that we played with before, so that's very important, I think, coming together this year. So we're going to try and improve. We made some big signings this past week, so we're hoping that will improve our team, and we're just trying to make a push and try and do the best we can do.
And before we go, a look at the play of the week brought to you by Olympic Trophies, and we got to go with Adis Sasic of Waterloo as he absolutely smashes this ball past Stefan Avramovic of Serbia. Nothing the keeper can do about this. Sasic tucks the shot just under the bar. Gorgeous. And that was the game winner for Waterloo. Adis Sasic, the Olympic Trophies play of the week.
And that's all the time we've got for this week. But just remember, for all the latest league news, including up-to-date statistics and standings, head to CanadianSoccerLeague.ca. And you can also follow on Twitter at CSL_soccer. Thanks for watching, folks, and we'll see you next week.